So, hello guys.
Hello, guys.
So, today we have a very special podcast. I think this Mars topic is like very hot. I mean, like in some particular circles of people. I mean, scientists and just dreamers and maybe burners are thinking about possibilities for even like a human race to expand and start with Mars. But this is like questionable and arguable. Um, so we have today very interesting guests. Let's start with that.
Yes.
So we have myself. I'm just Sergi, but you can call me real Sergi. And we have Ira.
Yes, hello.
And we have Elise.
Hi, how are you?
So Elise is working on a very interesting documentary, and she's exploring every topic.
Yeah.
If you can.
Essentially, I'm writing a documentary called Asking for Sex, and is exploring how we connect, because at some point, if we want to go to another planet, we need to really know and understand, what are we building in regards to our culture? And I think that, people that are really considering this as a new lifestyle or a new way of life in general for our culture, how do we build it from the beginning? And I think a lot of the topics I explore around how do you ask for sex and what we do in regards to connecting to people is important.
Yeah. Then we have. Thank you. We have Kirill. Kirill, do you want to talk a couple of words?
Fixing technical issue, yes. Hi, Kirill. Always sitting here.
Yeah, but.
About myself, do a lot of stuff. Work on the small project with Iris and Sergey's, like art projects, and but mainly right now I work in San Francisco and do a lot of visual effects for feature films and commercials, and a little bit of VR work.
Nice, thank you, Kirill. Now let's switch to our guests. So let's start with Julia.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Couple words.
I'm not agreeing with Sergi, and also more recently Ira and Kriel on different projects, and mostly the content and editing and so far.
Nice, sweet. Carlos, hi, and a couple words about you.
Hello.
Wait, you're dropping for some
Can you
reason.
hear me?
Just some of the words.
Some of the words. Quickly is bit of just innovation. I worked at Singularity University, taught innovation to entrepreneurs, mostly social entrepreneurs. So I'd love to discuss.
Okay, we heard that you're working in Singularity University. This is good. It's really interesting, actually. But I just hope to hear somehow you without dropping. Do you think it's possible to fix something on your side?
I sent it on the message.
We can,
Yeah, maybe. Do you want me to? Go ahead.
Like the video is good, but the audio is kind of dropping a little bit.
Yeah, it's lagging.
Okay, I can switch to a different computer if you want.
Yeah, like maybe it's like internet. Yeah.
Okay.
If you can try, yeah, it'll be good.
Or maybe...
I'll reboot my internet.
Yeah, maybe this will also help. So we can restart the
Okay.
whole stream, it's not a big deal. Or we just like cut this first part.
Yeah, we can cut the first part.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
no-
We
it's
did
no
it
big
already,
deal.
so like technical preparation
Yeah.
part is like, yeah. Like with this dropping, it's still not be good.
This part's not recorded, right?
We're recording, but we can cut. Like after the stream is over, we can cut this first part and start with.
Okay.
We can do.
No, I mean, like this part here is not stream. Okay.
We can do introduction again. So yeah.
Okay.
Almost everything is okay.
How's your day been so far, Julie?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, actually, right before I was talking to you guys, I was actually reading a book called Packing for Mars. Packing for Mars. This was called The Curious Science of Life in the Void. And I thought it was interesting. One thing interesting that I thought of was, related to Elsa's documentary is that, it's actually very difficult to have sex in space for due to gravitational reasons, so it might be interesting.
Yeah, for
Space,
sure.
yes.
You know, like that's definitely where we should go. I think that like exploring new ways of trying stuff that you haven't done before, and like explorers are going to be the ones who are going to benefit.
So where's the mic facing the other direction?
Because
So what about you, Ira? How's your Ira? How's your day?
My day is great. Thank you for having me talk about my experience, because I'm still under a great impression. That's actually the continuation of our dialogue with you in the messenger. It's like where do you draw inspiration from? It's like from everywhere, from all of these events in your life. Pretty much. What's the greatest event that happened to you recently inspired you the most? Carlos, welcome back.
Can you hear me better now?
Wow, great.
Okay.
wow,
Much better.
much
That's
better.
nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's better. Yay! Welcome back.
So just couple things left. I will just.
So what's
Stream is black now.
Yeah, I know. I want. We will cut that. I want to open the window, browser window.
okay? So what's the greatest? Let's continue talking about what's the thing that impressed you the most recently. Carlos, let's start with you.
In general, what's the most impressive thing?
Yeah, just maybe something that some event or some art or some technology that impressed you
Guys,
recently.
add water, please. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in my rabbit hole of technology. Maybe I should think about a different example. What has impressed me the most about humanity? Or
Maybe
technology?
like inside, maybe like some motivation, some inspiration.
I don't know. I've been in a world of technology and politics, unfortunately, but I guess, the idea that Macron won the election,
Mhm.
and that he may have given the hackers wrong information on purpose. I thought that was pretty amazing.
So again, so basically there was no hacking, or what?
Well, no, that's the thing. I think they proved that there was hacking, and then they fed misinformation into the hacking machine.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Cool.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So we never know where the truth is, right?
Yeah.
Well, you never know who has the upper hand, and that the underdog can always win.
Yeah, or just take an average. I think eventually technology is going to help us out there. I was just at a talk at Stanford, and there was a lot of people doing a deep learning or AI analysis on fake news.
Yeah.
Is a big hot topic with a lot of students, and they seem very, very encouraged that computers are going to help solve a technical problem, right? So they created a technical problem where you can disseminate fake news very easily. And now you can have a filter to come back and then maybe take an average of what is fake and what is not fake. And maybe, it's...
Yeah.
You can
Otherwise, you have to do it yourself, right? You need to go on the website and see if they have the same news.
Yeah, but that's a good lesson to learn. Like, I mean, that's one way that I've always, like, as a marketer, for me to figure out, like, what things actually are real or not, like, who's behind it and who's motivating the value proposition or the message behind it, and usually it's some organization funding it or somebody that's working on producing the content. And if you can figure out who that person is, then you kind of know a little bit more of the context, which I think is healthy anyways to know. But at the same time, like, there's this piece where common sense steps in too, and I don't know how much of all that is nurture versus nature, and like how can we do it at a mass level? Not sure.
Exactly. I just talked to somebody about a scientist actually about research articles. Something that we've always thought was like very well respected and almost fact, like just a regular research article, but they're all inherently biased.
Yeah.
Right? So you're basically trying to, you're going to create a research project that you probably know is going to work. So it's already biased. So we're going to learn a lot about ourselves in this big.
Yeah, so I have an interesting story. I was in graduate school for business, and I went to Washington. We had this 1 week long kind of immersion course to go to Washington, D.C., and that was like definitely on my checklist of things I wanted to do, because I had always wanted to be in politics, but I never entered into it because I just thought it was so nasty and inhuman in some regards. And so I kind of like decided to go into the business world, because then I knew that there's places that had money and resources that I could learn from, and then figure out, what is the right passage or right way to do this. But like, I'm sitting in this Washington, D.C. class, and they bring in politicians, and then they bring us around to different places within Washington that we can kind of go into. So, the major buildings with the major agencies that are in there. And we went to go see, with the FDA, the Food Administration. And we're having these conversations about, how they kind of came up with the most latest changes that they had in their work. And it was reforming the pyramid, where I think something was switched in regards to how it moved to the top. And I think like fats or something was kind of recategorized. And so that was their big new invention and like change they were going to make for America, right? This was the whole thing they were pushing. And my one question to them was like, where did this research come that nutritionally this is something that's more beneficial for our children? And their answer was like, nope, it is 100% based on what's good economically. So if there is something that's going on in regards to crop systems and what was going on seasonally, or what was happening in regards to trade, it was 100% changed and adapted just to that, and had no consideration to our health at all.
Because we need to take care of ourselves. That's why I'm completely 100% for personal research, open-mindedness, and love that will help to save yourself from bad decisions. That's it. In regards to information and to the nutrition and everything else. Are we good to start the questions about Mars?
Wait a little bit.
Once Sergey stop fucking around is there.
Dude,
stop it.
But I want to prepare this Chrome window.
Okay, but we can start.
No, we will cut
talking.
that.
Why?
It's not about cutting. Everybody's just waiting.
Yeah. So I would love to actually continue talking about Mars. And we have the question here. Is it really necessary to explore Mars and other planets? Is it what the Creator expects from us? I would love us to talk about it.
Well, can you define what Creator means? Like what the Creator expects from us?
So
I'll give you a really quick Cliff Note version. Basically, it's a university where moonshot is embraced and encouraged. So moonshot thinking is to make a really audacious goal as your goal. right? So people say that if you're not working on your biggest idea, you're not doing it, especially as an entrepreneur or in anything, because it's not inspirational enough. So the main school of thought there is that as long as you put a beautiful, inspirational goal in front of you, you'll be able to recruit people to this goal. And also, Singular University is also about grand challenge thinking. How to positively affect 1 billion people by making innovations that can affect 1 billion people.
So is it like online, or where is it located?
Oh, it's here in Silicon Valley. It's Moffett Field, NASA.
Yeah, I heard about it a little bit, but I never like knew where is it located. I think I read online about this.
Yeah, it's located here, but now it's kind of spreading around the world, and it's a beautiful construct of like the future university of where people can come in and now in an abundance mindset, actually, based on Peter Diamandis' what he calls the abundance mindset. He describes that actually we are headed towards an abundant future. In particular, starting with energy and then going down to food, water, etc. So he gives the example of solar energy, and I've been a kind of a scholar of clean energy as well, and that's what resonated with me. His example there, that actually says that the real estate per unit area, once it reaches a certain efficiency on a solar cell, and we actually have enough energy to do anything: purify water, desalinate. All of those things are not economically constrained anymore. And then everything else follows. Now, there's a lot of more problems than just water and food and energy, but that's where it starts. Because then it trickles down to to education, and then maybe even family planning. So the biggest thing here is population control. We need to bring the population down to a manageable level. And that's kind of the frame that all of these solutions start going around. But the key component here is leveraging what Silicon Valley started, which is exponential technology, basically using the power of the transistor. So if you guys have heard of Moore's Law, right?
Sure.
You have this amazing phenomenon that we're even talking on right now, which is the doubling of power, computational power, and the dropping precipitously of price. That means we're all going to be connected, and we're all going to have.
So, this law is not valid anymore. The only problem is.
You're saying Moore's Law.
The Moore's
It's
Law.
outdated.
Yeah, since we reached the density of the crystal on the chip, and we cannot make the transistors smaller.
Yeah,
anymore.
but we can do more cores.
Yeah. So the law kind of was valid for like what, 20 years? And
Well, the main takeaway from there, because we're not silicon chemists or basically like fab engineers, but what we're talking about is that spawned off a bunch of different exponential technologies.
exactly, yeah. Like in general, the progress that we've seen, it's very amazing, right? If you think about like 100 years ago and right now, it's just mind blowing, right? And just to appreciate that and look around and stop for a second and see what all the technology that we have, and it's really like just
Exactly.
you can't even
So
think about it.
it makes you wonder what is the next, what is going to be the next thing that's going to be similar to that, and what is it going to look like? And I think I have some theory that I sometimes like to dream about that contains this like thought process of do we take like us using the internet or social networks, do they become something so very strange in the sense that we start sharing information like our emotions with each other electronically? Are there things like that where it'll change, and maybe there's a huge thing on frequencies or understanding what motions are, what types of motions create that are frequencies that actually can change the mood of a city, for example. Those kind of things, moving into more like extrinsic things happening in regards to this kind of like philosophical perspective of the internet, right?
Guys, so I just want to go back to our topic, and so to me the question still remains like is it like exploring the Mars and other planets? Is it like unavoidable, or so? Is it like the only way for us as humans to evolve, or like maybe we shouldn't do it, and maybe it's like maybe it's kind of like a sin or something like that. So I just want to hear.
Explore inside ourselves.
Yeah, like reverse exploration instead of micro level, micro level.
Well, I consider this as like you are free to do whatever you want. There are options. You have choice. You can stay here and continue the tradition, which is also good, right? Tradition of farming, of agriculture, and you can go and explore. It's just creating another option for the people to, to have fun on Earth.
So, but okay, so it looks like we're kind of stuck as humanity because we have this wars and party that we cannot stop, and so like my vision is, let's say America, right? First was formed as a continent for kind of selected people, at least people who dare to come here, and build a new community. So maybe Mars could be a next step, next level of the same idea, that people only selected and super selected, like rich or very skillful people go to Mars and again build new community that will be that will be able to get rid of wars and scarcity and all this stuff. So what do you think, guys? Let's say Carlos.
Yeah, you want me to take that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm all for Mars. So I actually had a startup in fuel cells. And when I started talking about fuel cells, really quickly I realized that it's actually a political discussion. Why we're not actually promoting certain technologies. A lot of people don't believe in fuel cells. Well, it's not really about belief. It's about understanding some of the science and playing with it. And then eventually you see that there's a trajectory that's out to 50 years that we should promote certain technologies, right? So I got a little frustrated, and, because I didn't really want to be a politician or like think in politics or in politic terms as a scientist engineer. But then, I realized that there's, a human component to this where we can kind of social engineer, and I started getting into education. That's where actually my first target market was making little hydrogen robots. My whole thing is about just build it and make it happen. So I got the opportunity to teach a classroom full of 30 young 10 to 12-year-old students, and it was just amazing to see how quickly they grabbed onto these concepts and ran with it. And pretty soon we had 30 little hydrogen robots running around. So if you start looking at the history of how did that technology actually take hold, it started back in the 1800s when the first batteries were being invented. But then the first usage of a fuel cell was in space. When you constrain the the human environment as the harshest environment as possible that's surrounding you, you have to protect them, right? So like in a spaceship, you have some of the most amazing technologies that just had to exist or else the people would die. And then there's energy efficiency. Every gram sent to space is kilograms of fuel. So there's you have to account for every gram that's in that spaceship, especially before we disrupted space with Elon Musk's invention with reusable rockets. So it's a very good analogy of what we have on the planet today. We have literally a closed system bioreactor called Earth. You can actually model you and I and everybody as one bacteria as basic input-output. And we see this in the laboratory every day, that you have this flask of nutrients and this little ecosystem, and then there's an exponential growth of bacteria in a closed system, and then they start dying off because too much acid, waste from living starts accumulating in there. So we've been talking about this for a long time as scientists and engineers, and we're just frustrated that we're headed towards the same potential future.
Okay, but wait, my question was a little bit different. So my main question here is like, if people go to Mars and form community there, will they eventually struggle of wars and scarcity again. Like, will this repeat again? What do you think?
I see what you're saying. I wanted to get to that. I'm sorry, it was a little long explanation, but the point is that we're going to find out if we constrain a mission going to Mars and try to build a society from scratch.
Yeah.
We're going to learn so much about how to solve problems here on Earth that we can't even imagine. Societal, technology, you name it, all of it. Because you're going to put, for instance, imagine a spaceship going over there, and let's say you have 100,000 people. You have the biology constraints, science constraints, but then you also have the societal constraints where you're going to have different sleeping patterns. So you're going to stress people, right? Because they were built around Earth, right? They were built to be Earthlings. So then you're going to say, okay, how do we adapt those people? Well, we're going to have to find new methods of how to deal with new stresses on the human. And with those new methods, I think we can come back and learn a lot about that. I don't believe in a true scarcity on the planet. I really do believe in an abundant future, just technically speaking. So I just don't think, on Mars, I think we would prepare ahead of time for those constraints. We're not going to have basic constraints. We're going to have maybe entertainment problems, like things where you're constrained to a little spaceship or a vessel. That can be stressful.
Talking about entertainment, how about people who want to have sex in the space and on Mars? Do you have any
input on that?
Yeah.
We only read about the problem of the solution. But I think it's interesting because you are putting people in a new situation and you can create more efficiency, and you can easily say that talking about if energy and battery, in a way battery society, if you think about it, whatever, and so if we can create we can control the energy, the battery, so whoever goes there for first likely would take control over the energy sources, either edible or not edible energy sources. Then you can easily that's powerful.
Guys, I have a very important question right now. Do you think to be able to get to Mars should be very expensive, or maybe you have to have a special skills?
This is an interesting question, for sure.
So I want to hear your inputs.
So should rich
Well, I
people
think
be able
in
to afford it, or should people who have like power and other things?
Not power, skills. Let's say
Skills.
scientists.
So, I mean, if you take as an example of like America exploration, right?
Yeah.
Who would go to America? It wouldn't be rich people. It would be poor people who are suppressed by the society
dare.
and who want to like search for a new world or like escape. If you look at the people who actually moved here, it was a lot of people had problem with a politician or a political regime, or there was like someone was searching for them, or because they were doing some things that wasn't that was
Illegal.
against society.
Illegal.
Like
No,
Australia.
it's not even against society. That society couldn't feed them in their
Maybe.
beliefs, in the norms of the society.
Well, we have some examples here on Earth of kind of these situations that take place. So, for example, Australia is a country that was based on all prisoners from other countries, right? So you have this kind of beginning piece of a country. Were there issues, or did they all, did their society and culture eventually meet where we are anyways, right? So was that even a factor that you need to consider?
So yes, I agree. But like to get to Australia, I think it's easier than to get to Mars. Pretty much right now we rely only on Elon Musk, so probably he will select.
Elon Musk.
For now, right? And maybe he will select.
Think about
Right? But like, how should he select, or like, how do you think he will select us? Offer the opportunity to go, right? So obviously you can choose like rich people also to fund the project, but is it like the best solution, or it's not fair?
But why do I want to go to Mars if I reach?
just to have fun. I don't know, maybe you're bored on Mars.
Yeah.
You know, but should Musk implement this particular approach, right? Rather than.
And I think this is what he is doing. He said, like, he lowered the price that anyone who has like 100K to buy a house can go, kind of like the middle.
It's still a lot, dude. Like, how about person who is completely poor but he's kind of like scientist or whatever, like
Well,
genius?
Someone have to fund the project then, right? Someone have to might be like still the price should go down because right now what we're talking about, in order to send like one person in space, you need like $1 million.
Yeah, what if I'm like a genius but I'm also fat? You know,
or
I
poor.
want to go to
You
Mars.
cannot go.
Yeah,
You know?
you're not fit, yeah.
That's actually a beautiful reason why to get on a diet. So you can go to Mars. Motivation.
Well, yeah, I think we're moving towards a society that's less focused on skills and more on experiences and intelligent and intelligence maturity, like EQ, which is called. And so I think that we can that definitely creates some more opportunities and for more people and regarding also the transportation, like getting there, Sergio was mentioning, well, yeah, it's a big difference, going from, I don't know, Ukraine to the United States or going from Ukraine to space is a big difference. But I think that, in the future there will be a lot more open source technologies, and so it's possible that the more people find different solutions to also go in space and somehow contribute to the mission and make themselves valuable. So I definitely think that it's like, what type of mentality are we moving towards? In a way, we are more open to be more inclusive, and in some ways more closed. But it depends on the political atmosphere of the country to some extent, likely.
Yeah.
How long would it take to get there?
I think 2 months, right?
2 months.
Carlos, according to your recent.
I think a little longer than that.
You can get like once in the 4 years. I think there is a window where you can get there in 3 months or close to that. But in general, well, like NASA shoot their spaceship, like with the Curiosity rover, at stake 8 months usually. It's depending on how close it is, right? Like what's the time of the.
So the cheapest flies on to Mars.
So yes, so I think.
Let's talk about educated versus non-educated. I mean, at first you only have a few people. Like, let's say you have 6 people going to Mars on the first mission, and then maybe much more on the next few missions. So you're gonna have to have basically duplicate people inside one person that have multiple skill sets. That's why astronauts have multiple PhDs. They have several degrees. And I think that's still the school of thought with NASA, is that you have to have kind of like an MD and this, a combination. So if you get into trouble, you have somebody there with appropriate skills.
Yeah.
I think the only reason why NASA does that is because there's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of space for a lot of astronauts, so there's got to be a lot of competition. And the other reason is that they want to make sure the person is highly dedicated, because the type of training someone goes through is ridiculous. It's very intensive. You're pretty much learning everything from basic, like your child, from walking to eating to everything. So I think that more than anything, more than skills, because skills are so relative. Every university experience is different, and so I really think it comes down to minimizing the amount of people, making it more competitive, and also making the commitment higher of the person, individual.
This is not what Elon Musk envisioning, yeah. So like if you watch his last presentation talk with the rocket that he's building, it's a rocket that bigger than the Saturn V rocket, and the Saturn V is this huge rocket that sent this Apollo 9 mission and some previous
to moon, right?
Yeah, it's the biggest rocket that human ever made. And this is a crazy size. And Elon Musk building this rocket that's even bigger, and it has can fit 100 people at one time. Okay. Plus refueling on the orbit, right? It sent one thing, and it's waiting on the orbit, and then it send another payload, and there's 2 payload together. One is a provision, and another is 100 people. And he sent the whole thing to Mars. basically it's 100 people with the same amount of cargo, which is like huge amount of cargo as well.
Yeah, and also this interesting theory that he's gonna somehow use Mars soil to, or I don't know, like atmosphere to produce fuel.
Methane or something.
Yeah,
Methane
some
engine.
special chemical reaction. So then looks like you don't need to take the fuel to return from Mars with you. You can take some maybe some just some component of this fuel and you can produce, you can like build factory on Mars to produce fuel there and go back. So that's why you have even more space in a rocket. That's what I heard. Am I right, Carlos? Is this the current vision of what can be done on Mars?
Yeah, so multi-purpose fuel is hugely important, like just not just for propulsion, but also for energy, heating the astronauts, creating water. You guys have seen The Martian. It's actually not far from the truth, where he had to create water from the rocket fuel. So they're looking at these multi-purpose fuels, right? It's not just fuel; it's fuel for the human body.
Yeah, but you use some component that exists on Mars right now to produce more of this fuel, right?
Yeah. Of course. I mean, if you have a raw material on Mars you can leverage, then that means you have X more months to be there or whatever it is, you know.
No. X more months doesn't sound logical to me. If you have, let's say, something in atmosphere or in soil that you use for fuel, that you have pretty much infinite resource, right?
That's the end game. Yeah. I mean, the point is that you're not going to have maybe all the technology there on the first mission. It's going to be an iterative, like stepwise approach. And you're going to transport a lot of technology to eventually be self-sustaining to be able to make fuel. So you're talking about the methane approach, but there's many other approaches, right? So there's like biofuel you can create on Mars. I know there's, you know, I used to work in algae biofuel. That's a good way to create methane as well, using bacteria. But in order to create, you know, grow bacteria, you're going to probably need quite a bit of equipment. But once it's there, then it's basically like a gas station, an interstellar gas station that you just created. But it depends what mission are you talking about. So I think the point is that there's going to be, you know, multiple phases of what is Mars and making a colony on Mars. That's the end game, right? Make a self-sustaining colony on Mars, where you can feed yourself, refuel, and then head back. Right?
Yeah. What other mission could it be? Like Curiosity, like right now, just temporary, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, the temporary is like you always start with temporary, but then if you feel the purpose and you feel this is your aim to create a self-sustainable community there, then yeah, like all missions should be planned in a way that they bring materials that can be reused and maybe will combine with different materials that you find on Mars.
And then that is when you would need all this knowledge of, you know, farming, I don't know, communication, what people are going to do like inside of the colony there.
Yeah, that's like, I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about that, and it's
Sure.
not the right place to talk about it, but is social emotional intelligence at some point going to matter? And are we going to scale it? Are we going to be able to rank it? Are we going to be able to use it as something of saying it is important? Or do we have a capacity of doing that? And is it at a point going to have an impact that could be positive for this new thought process?
Yeah, this leads to a question about relationship inside the team, right?
Yeah.
So, because this social intelligence is very important to create scandal-free, you know, like depression-free team,
And war-free.
both in a ship and on Mars,
Yeah.
right? So, what do you think about how this social intelligence, like, on this current level of understanding,
Human relations, basically.
yeah, like relationship between people, how can this help or make possible for risk, like depression-free and like
I think
bad free team?
I think it's very hard thing to
Argue?
quantify. Yeah,
You can't quantify
you can
it
only
now.
you can only guess by experiment, right? And that's why I think it's important that we have this experiment where they put people like they on Mars in these close settlements.
Yeah, Mars 500, right?
Right, and they live there for a year all together, and they analyze not only that they can live there, but also how the humans interact with each other, and there is the drama or what humans need, you know, like again, like sex or whatever, right? All these things that like make us human, right? And if you have 100 people in an enclosed environment in outer space, and all those people are random, just kind of from the street, this is a very tricky situation, and I think the only way to find an answer to that is to try to do that. And I think this is very interesting. If you can create something on Earth the same way, like let's say like bring the 100 people, put them in a closed, you know, environment, and said like now you live here and you like on freaking.
Dude, but this is just
Mars.
a half of the situation. Another half is like these unexpected moments that will happen on Mars. It's not just closed environment, but also let's say like a meteorite hit or whatever, destroy your equipment or something like that. How people will cope with this kind of situation.
Sure, and then it's hard. It's
Certain
actually hard to
genders.
create because you know it's people know that they're not on Mars, right? And they know that whatever like broken, they still you know survive. There is no real fear or sense of danger, right?
Yeah. So like
And that's very important, you know.
the question is like how should we do the interview, whatever, hiring of the people who will go to Mars? Okay, we understand we need skills, it's very important, and maybe they should be also rich to be able to fund the project. But
That's very common these days. That they can tell people's psychological predisposition based on their genetic makeup as well. So people might just do that. You never know. Mm-hmm.
so
But
The question is,
who is to choose which genetics works for Mars conditions? Who is gonna choose this?
so you're, who's going to choose that? Well, it's likely psychologists would choose that. I mean, scientists put a lot of faith in psychologists and probably too much faith.
So does this
in my opinion.
Does this mean that we have? Does this mean that we have only one-way ticket?
and will people go if there will be only one-way ticket?
Yeah.
Right?
Should we have one-way
Well,
ticket?
crazy people will go, and you can see the proof of that because there was this European program where they tried to send like this spaceship on Mars one way, right? And they have this huge program that was financed by like just some random organization.
And people agreed to go.
Yeah, and there are like video on Vimeo that you can see like people who agree and sign like the papers, and they were selected. And those people saying like, yeah, I'm going to Mars. But all those people are freaking crazy. Like I would not go with these people because they're like mental. Because you can see it on Vimeo video, these people they're not normal.
So how will they build anything?
it's a
Like how they
scam.
survive? They maybe will die next day.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, this is fucking crazy. I don't want to watch this.
Okay, so I was going to bring this up earlier, but so in the past of our history exploring space, they've always done experiments that are very odd and strange as they go up there. And I remember one story, and I can't remember the astronaut's name, but he had a side test he was supposed to experiment he was supposed to be doing for his psychic abilities. And it was specifically for ESP, right? There was a whole investment that the government had made in kind of trying to figure out if people are psychic, right? And actually going up to space and testing to see if there's any differences or changes or things that
And that's
got
awesome,
different.
right? Because
Right.
we don't know. Right?
So that's
we should
why-
explore those things.
But that's kind of where I'm going with like also the social emotional piece is that when this astronaut came back and actually told people that that's what he was doing, he actually got a lot of huge people just cut him off. He was no longer taken
Wait,
seriously.
what he's doing?
He was testing his psychic abilities.
Oh.
Psychic. Do you know what psychic is?
Yeah.
Extrasense.
Yeah.
So there's this piece of our history that has that, but we also have this history of dejecting that relevant piece that may have been significant of us taking a stride in a different direction. So again, going back to the social emotional piece, how can we focus on including maybe different thought processes of how we would invent ourselves going forward,
So looks like people should have extra abilities to be able to agree to go to Mars.
Right.
And especially one way. Let's say maybe first time one way, but maybe there's a small possibility to return with in 10 or 20
But
years.
you will never fit again. You will never fit back
To
because
the
you've seen
society?
things that you like nobody's seen around you. You'll
Okay.
be like an
That's
outcast.
actually
Like this
that's
Yuri Gagarin, you know? So
The first man
yeah,
on
the first man who saw like
in
the
space.
Earth from the space, Yuri Gagarin, the Russian,
Yeah.
right? So actually nobody knows for sure where he is now. Is he alive, or is he like committed suicide, or he's like, got like mad or something like that? So it's like
I read that he was dead. He couldn't simply return to Earth. But in my mind, if I saw something that nobody never saw in the world, and there is absolutely, you cannot even share it with anyone because nobody's seen it. Just only you. Can you imagine?
explain.
Yeah, it's like it's gorgeous and it's terrible at the same time because you're like,
You feel like godlike.
a virtual reality might help us actually immerse people with these experiences. So, I don't know if you guys know the startup spacevr.com.
no, never heard of it.
That's local here in San Francisco. There's a guy that's putting a VR camera in space in a cube satellite, so that you can actually literally immerse yourself as if you're an astronaut. And if you think about it, I mean, if you go into water, so actually a Singularity University company is also using waterproof VR glasses. If you can get weightless and also see VR, then maybe you can get that same phenomenon that you're talking about, that
Wow.
life-changing.
And I actually don't believe in that. I was playing with virtual reality helmet recently, and yeah, it looks amazing, looks stunning. But every second I still like I know that I'm just standing in some studio or whatever.
You need to spend more time on that. You need so after spending some time, you actually will forget, because you just need to get used to. People start using that, and they first they have this awareness, and for each person is different, right? And then some time spent, you get more immersed, and you actually started forgetting, and it's kind of creepy, and that's a lot of people freaked out too.
But you can get sick
Yeah.
after a
Okay,
few
but
hours,
you're
so
not gonna
you can't
die.
do it longer than
You
that.
know-
It's not advice for children either.
Yeah, so you're not gonna die. You know it for sure, even if you feel that you're in
Yeah,
space.
this is I agree with, right? If you have some danger happening there, it probably won't feel real for you, right?
Actually, talking about Matrix, right? If you die in the virtual reality, will you die in the real world, right? This kind of stuff. But still, I feel like the most significant part about going to space, even not to Mars, is the just this feeling that you can die any second, just because anything can happen, any moment.
You don't have to go to a space to feel that. You can go to the mountains, right? And this is the very dangerous place.
The
where-
Everest.
Just any mountain. There are many mountains.
rock climbing?
There are many mountains that's very dangerous. And
And
you-
one thing is when you're in a spaceship, and another thing is when you're in the mountain, or when you're on the land of Mars is a different thing too. I mean, in the mountain, it's more you kind of understand like what kind of insects or wild animals there might be
of course, yeah.
placed to your going.
And you also know that-
I don't think so.
You can go back, even it might be a long way to go back, but still you can reach
A civilization.
destination. Yeah. But in Mars, there's no way for you to go back.
Does a
easily.
person need this knowledge of going back, if anything happens? It's like, do we need to just bring the education of there is no return? Like, I cannot return what happened 5 minutes ago. I cannot turn this back. It's just it's past.
Yeah,
So
this was the case with the first Americans, right, who came here. They couldn't go back. Like a freaking one-way ship.
It's possible, but very complicated, right? You can wait for next ship and return.
Yeah. Half of them died, right, first winter.
It's the same as these refugees from Syria, right?
Even today, right? People come in places and they have not necessarily have a chance to go back. Or you're saying, if you all think about time, every moment, right in our life, there's no way to go back.
Sure. We need to restart.
In terms of security and people knowing that they can possibly go back to their home. I mean, what if they have a mother in a different country or something. They want to see them or so forth. So you never know. I mean, it's like there's a certain. I think there's a certain sense of homeness. You know that they can go back to their back to Earth. But I definitely don't. I've been thinking about it. It's like I don't see why whoever creates this mission for people gives them this opportunity would also encourage them or make it easy for them to go back, because it would disrupt their society. If you go back to Earth, I'm talking about, and it would, you know, I just see it creating more problems than anything. Possibly. But also depends on what's going on Earth, too. It's another discussion.
That's an interesting thing, yeah. Again, it's just creating a chance for a person like it's humane.
When you're turning
Yeah,
off,
it's humane.
it's go down. It's paused.
It's like
Yeah. Did you disable the camera? Maybe did you?
I think it's still.
Can you please check?
I'm sorry.
Hold on, we're having technical.
Sergey, the camera was back. It was just paused there.
I think it's no.
Shit.
I don't know.
Is it working right
It's
now?
on now, right?
I don't know if it's on
Yeah,
or
yeah,
not.
yeah. We're back. Yeah, we're
Okay.
back. Okay, so my another question. So maybe Mars is like far and like complicated, lots of issues. So how about maybe starting with the moon first? I know it's not that exciting, but it's way more feasible.
That's what it says. It's not. There's not as many resources as possibly Mars might have.
No, but like it's less reckless and it's less dangerous. It's not only about resources. It's about the proof of concept of the idea that you can build self-sustainable colony somewhere in space.
Maybe they're doing this. How do you know?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, they just tested it already and like proceeded with Mars.
And we cannot see it from the telescope because it's like the
Yeah.
shade side of the moon.
I mean, that's like I don't know. Like there is no
Always
atmosphere.
in
Exactly.
And
There's no atmosphere.
That there is something on Mars that they probably know as an atmosphere, or they can research further. What like there is like stuff to do on Mars,
Actually-
whereas like there is nothing to do on Moon,
Okay, so
as they say,
no atmosphere.
as I understand this.
But on Mars, we hope to create atmosphere using melting of the ice.
Yeah.
Right, Carlos.
Sorry, say again.
Is this the intention to create an atmosphere on Mars using melting of the ice? Really? It's not a
Yeah,
joke?
so there's many theories. Yeah, they found, I guess they calculated quite a bit of water there, I should say. And then I
That's
think
ice.
one of the theories is to use thermonuclear explosions in the stratosphere to actually melt the North Pole and the South Pole to actually start the terraforming process, right? So that's the process called terraforming.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
radiation? Radiation is like dangerous, right?
What's that?
The radiation after the explosion is dangerous.
Well, I think they would have to figure that out. They would have to get something with the nuclear yield. Maybe I'm not a nuclear chemist, but I think there's a way to do it where you can get a 100%, close to 100% nuclear yield, and then you have a half-life calculation
Mhm.
where obviously you wouldn't go there until it's safe.
Mhm.
But I think there's a way to do it. I'm not positive.
I personally think it's such a bullshit about this terraforming and all the people who talk about it, because they forget about one simple thing, is that why there is no atmosphere on Mars right now. And the reason why, because there is no magnetic field. The core of the Mars is much less active than Earth, and it doesn't create magnetic field, and that's why all the atmosphere gets blown out by the solar wind. In our case, our magnetic field protects us from the solar wind. If you lose our magnetic field, meaning like if the core of the Earth become less active, then you lose all the atmosphere. And
Oh.
it doesn't matter if you melt the ice or whatever, like you put all the gas in the atmosphere, it's going to blow away anyway. But there's nothing to hold it, basically, nothing to protect, there's no shield.
So what should we do?
Exactly. Actually, Andrei Zamorsky talked about it a little bit. He was come up with this like crazy theory that he read. And there was another guy. Sorry, there was another guy. He said that you can build a station like kind of, what Tesla was trying to do. He was trying to build this really high energy like station on the Earth to create this like a magnetic field.
Uh-huh.
And if you build like enough energy, you can actually build a station that create the magnetic field for the planet, which I personally think is also like such a bullshit because we're talking about the scale of, you know, of the planet.
But if you have no other option to hold the atmosphere.
Come on, we have 4,000-year-old pyramids in Egypt, you know?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of your brain, just like release all the frames, like all the boundaries that you have in your mind, and you maybe will be able to create Tesla, right? He wasn't able to create what I read about it. He was doing a lot of interesting experiments, but they were not didn't work good with people who had money and power.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about Mars. Everything can happen on Mars.
So let's talk about some other interesting factor of information we don't really talk about.
Yes.
Tesla had another counterpart, two different types of energy, right?
Yeah.
But you also look at like Freud.
Mhm.
Freud had a protege that I think his name was Wright. Was maybe his last name. I'll correct that and probably send information later. But anyways, he invented this concept of orgone energy. And so Freud kind of was more on the cultural perspective that that's who we are as humans. We're culturally influenced. And this other guy was all about like orgasmic energy, talking about the orgasm itself and the body as a function of being primal and kind of having this energy that could be used to help cure mental illness all the way to cancer. And he started doing research and setting up centers and putting together schools and colleges. And at some point, the U.S. government came in and shut it all down, and like ended up like destroying orgone boxes all across the U.S. And when I had discovered and read about this information, it all of a sudden occurred to me that, oh wow, if we don't have our same conditions of how we think of ourselves culturally, what would happen if we had this concept of orgone energy? And something that explored a totally different, way of like getting out of the kind of concepts that we have today. And it's like stuff we just never discussed, right? And ways that we look at things. And so could this also be some new way of us framing science into a new environment?
But can it hold the atmosphere?
Maybe.
Maybe is how.
So here's the idea.
This is what
if we
holds
could get a
atmosphere.
lot of people on Mars and have a lot of sex.
Yeah, this will hold the atmosphere. Yeah, the only possibility.
Asking for sex. Yeah.
What else to do, right? There is no TV, no Netflix. You just need to hold the atmosphere.
Can you hold my atmosphere?
For a second. Yeah.
Okay, so in order to store orgone energy, though, there is an actual thing to do, and I'm actually
Store?
wanting to build one of these blankets. But is it organic material, which could be like wool or organic cotton, filled with metal or some type of, you could do steel wool or anything like that on top of another piece of wool. And traditionally how the boxes were made is like, it was organic, and it has to be organic wood, with slats of, any type of metal, and then organic wood of metal, and organic wood of metal, and it just creates a box, and that's how you store the energy.
Organic?
How?
Oh my god.
So,
Lots
do
of
they-
layers.
Okay, so do they hook you through the wires?
I don't think
To
so.
this?
From what I understand is that it's contained in the box.
How to
So you go
download
inside
this
the box.
energy? Like
Yeah,
how to pick it? Julia?
Julia, you're breaking
There's
out.
something goes back in the backward.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you repeat please, because you're dropping in.
Someone who has like cancer goes into the box and suddenly is exposed to the energy and gets cured. Is that how it hypothetically works?
Hypothetically, yeah. I'm sure there's more to it, and I didn't get into the details of it. But yeah.
Cool. Sounds interesting. Okay, how about talking about what we can do on Mars? So there is an event on Facebook called Burning Man Mars 2026.
Wait, what is it called? Burning Man Mars 2026.
So I think we will have first settlers on the Mars by that time, right, Carlos?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not necessarily a Mars expert, just to let you know, but
But I heard like this is the estimation of Elon Musk. It's not a joke. If he said something, it's like
yeah, he wants to go soon for sure.
very soon.
And something like between the 5 to 10 year time frame, so that makes sense. Yeah.
First settlers, right?
Yeah.
But then
I wouldn't call them settlers, explorers. Still, they're just trying to see if it's possible.
I think they want to settle at 2024, something like that. So, and they will have missions once in 36 months. I bet something like this.
yeah,
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, and so probably this 2026 is gonna be like the second mission already there.
hmm
Second settlers, and
So I think the first Burning Man started with just a small group of people, right, on a Baker Beach. So I think it should be enough to start first Burning Man.
how Burning Man recreates the story of the settlers on Mars.
No, it's just like first of all, Playa on Mars looks pretty much the same, right? And this fact of survivalism, and the fact that you are somewhere in the desert, and what's you gonna do? Probably you're gonna party, right? Also, at least, not only do science all the day, right? But what will you do in the night? You can create
Sleep? How about
Is that
sleep?
what you would do in Mars? You'd party all the time in Mars.
I don't think it's party.
Build all the time.
It's building all the
Build.
time. Yeah,
That'll be your partying. You'll be building.
building and partying. And
But
then
still, you
sleeping
build, and then,
And having sex.
of course.
Oh.
So do you think?
Deal, party, and have sex.
Yeah, do you think we can bring like LEDs on Mars, right, to use like party atmosphere?
You're gonna have glowing radiation.
Oh, yeah.
Packed. Don't worry about it.
Real LEDs. So yeah,
Nuclear LEDs.
yeah, nuclear LEDs. Yeah.
Carlos, how did you decide to be a burner? How many years?
Oh, good question. I actually by accident. I had my friends from France where I did my grad school, and they said, "Hey, we're coming to Burning Man. We have a ticket. You should come. We're building yurts." And it sounded great, so I just went, and it was fantastic. So I did the minimalist-ish way. And we also had the yurts, which are space foam, essentially, like basically really neat material science with those things to be able to stabilize temperature. But it was just fun. It was just great. It was funny. I was located in a very European area, where we had almost like 3 or 4 different countries from Europe represented just in our little city block. So we had Italy, Spain, I think we had Hungary, and we had France. I was in the France group. So it was really, really unique.
Have you been to France before? No?
Yeah, I lived
I have been.
for 2 years.
You have been? Cool.
Okay, guys. So wait. So I have last question about the Mars, and then we can just like finish. So the question is to every one of you, but I want to hear like personal answers. So will you go to Mars, and why? I will start with myself. I would go to Mars, and why? Just because it's just fun, regardless of will it be one way or not one way ticket. At some point of my life, I would try it. How about you, Ira?
I have no answer to that question yet.
Okay, that's fine, of course. How about you, Elise?
Yes, I actually signed up to go to Mars a few years back.
So why?
I want to have sex on Mars.
Okay. How about you, Kirill?
I won't go to Mars, and I thought about this problem, and I think there's things that I would enjoy doing on Earth, and that could contribute to that, or some like Earth issues.
Okay. How about you, Carlos?
Oh, absolutely. Depends on what mission, but yeah, I will go.
So no answer to why?
Oh, sorry. Why?
Yeah.
Why? For the sake of science, I mean, it's just a historical, amazing privilege to be this generation of humanity that gets to explore that far.
How about you, Julia?
I would go because I like the challenge, and I like to see new things. Pretty much. That's it.
Nice, sweet. So that's it, and this was really interesting. And
folks. Sorry, this what it sounded like.
yeah,
I'm thinking that I would stay on Earth and try like virtual reality built on the real images from Mars and all that good stuff.
yeah, but I'm thinking about the whole life. Like eventually, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years.
It's like the question of should Elon Musk go to Mars, right?
No,
He shouldn't.
I'm asking for personal, like everyone here.
Yeah, I mean that's what this guy here I think trying to say, right?
Yeah.
There's some people who should go, and there's so many people, right?
Yeah.
And
So asking also Ira, like, will you go in 20 years, in 30 years?
I will be not young anymore. I don't know if they discriminate people for the age and complexity and I don't know type of body. I probably won't fit in that category.
No, I think in 30 years it will be as easy as going on a BART.
breakfast on Mars.
Breakfast,
As
yes.
Carla said, you need to solve the problem that you can go to Mars, have food there, and go back.
Yeah, like coffee.
Yeah.
And just like go on something.
I'm waiting for that mission.
That mission.
Hey, that
See,
means
ma-
we can go have dinner and then have sex.
And come back.
Yeah, that means that we're gonna have like kind of Burning Man on Mars and go
Yeah.
back.
Sure.
That is,
In 1 year,
in a year.
at least.
Yeah, that's a journey. It's like I
Okay.
have
Learning
no
about is good
problem.
training.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
no problem in taking
Yeah.
year-long journeys in my
Agree.
life.
We should continue these questions if people want to keep on asking questions and like advise us on other topics that we should talk about.
Yeah, actually, people can comment under this video, and if we receive enough questions, then we can do another session on Mars or on space overall. But I feel like today we discussed really interesting questions, and it was really cool, and
Thank
I
you,
enjoyed it.
guys.
Thank you guys for joining us. And
Thanks for the invite.
Fun.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.